stress. And how does that impact on the Mind Dynamics profile? Well, let's start somewhere else. At the Mind Dynamics Institute, we look at the profile on 3 levels. Integrated. The integrated profile is not a state of being. It's not. We're not there all the time, but you'll easily recognize it as those moments when you're in flow, you're in the groove. Things are easy. It's just your moment, okay? That's the integrated state. Everything that was developed during infancy, remember the first 1,000 days? During those first 1,000 days, both eyes, both ears, all the different parts to the brain, both arms, both legs, your whole body was wired. That was the purpose of those reflexes. And then in time, so that we've got it all. We've got it all. Then nature says, but in time, for efficiency's sake, energy efficiency, but also to cut down on thinking time. You don't have to decide. The body, wherever there's a pair, would naturally specialize. So the one part will lead and the other part would follow. In a mature adult, the parts that lead and follow can be interchanged. They can change according to the situation. But during your upbringing, and it's the gift from the chromosome donors, your gene donors determined to a certain extent which eye will be dominant, which ear will be dominant, which parts of your brain will be dominant. And through upbringing, they obviously compounded that because you got it from them. So same the soothes. So they would compound what they've given you. And for that reason, we start specializing, using one eye, one ear, one hand, one leg, and very specific parts to the brain. And the moment that happens, you've just established your own expert mind dynamics profile. In other words, integrated mind dynamics profile, it's all you've got. It's everything. And we go there every now and again. Just below that, so it's a little bit less, is your mind dynamics profile. Now, your mind dynamics profile are your hardwired pathways. Those are your myelinated pathways, and that means it's your default. It's your factory settings. When things are a little bit challenging, but it's in a positive way. Stress is a marvelous help. If it continues for a long, long time, it turns into anxiety. But stress on a short-term basis, it's just that stimulus that encourages you to be your utmost, to be your best version of yourself. And that's when your dominance comes to the fore. The moment stress goes beyond that eustress, the one that's an enabler, but it goes just over the top, that's when we drop down to what we call, at the Mind Dynamics Institute, we talk about your mind dynamics stress profile. So mind dynamics stress profile is really the least you have available to support you in any given moment in time. It's not our most attractive profile, but it is hardwired for survival, physical survival, emotional survival, also for cognitive or intellectual survival. So when you need to fight for your point of view, your survival part of the brain will also kick in to enable you to do that. For some, it depends on what happens between your expert profile and your stress profile. For most people, you are less. Remember, there are 14 variables in a mind dynamics profile. In the integrated profile, all 14 are available and firing. With your mind dynamics expert profile, there's 7 variables that are firing. And with your stress profile, it depends on the configuration of your expert zone, what happens to your stress profile. For some people, the expert profile and the stress profile are identical. It's the exception to the rule. For most people, we become less and less. So the stress profile is simply an indicator. The moment you read about those characteristics, you read about what happens to you when you're in your stress zone, it's just for you to recognize when you're in that state, so you can use the mind moves to pull you out of that state into your expert profile, and ultimately way even beyond that to your integrated profile. And that's why it's incredibly important that we understand that the mind moves aren't add-ons. It's inherent to the Mind Dynamics profile. It's gear changes to enable you to move up and down the most amazing, very personal brain architecture that sits between your two ears.